Good morning, everyone. I think we're ready to get started this morning. Welcome to our Nirvana Day service, and we will start by the ringing of the concho. The ringing of the concho signifies the start of the service, so please sit quietly in your seat. Okay, please rise for meditation, and we will follow this by the chanting of the Vandana Tisarana by the congregation in both Pali and English. And the Vandana Tisarana can be found on page 165 in the Brown Praises of the Buddha book.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda.
Please be seated, everyone. We have a Nirvana Day aspiration from Reverend Sumi Kao.
The Windward Buddhist Temple Sundays gathered here this morning to observe the memorial of the passing of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the sage of the Shakya clan. His last word to us were, hold fast to the truth as a lamp. Seek emancipation in the truth. Look not for assistance from anyone beside yourself. Rely on yourself and do not rely on external help. All component things are subject to decay and death. Consider that thing called self. Think of its transiency, how you can fall into delusion about it and cherish pride and selfishness, knowing that they must all end in inevitable suffering. Be always thinking about the transiency of your life. You will be able to resist greed and anger, and will be able to avoid all evils. Namo Amida Butsu.
Okay, next we're going to have sutra chanting, and you have to follow directions, special directions this morning. So we're going to start from the Red Jodo Shinshu book on page 11 for the Sutra Shoshinge, but we're only going to chant verses 1 through 12 only. And after you finish verse 12, you got to hurry up and go to page 58 and then do the bottom ending. Okay? Any questions? No? Okay.
Come on, folks. 세슈 신고 조쇼고 이노 수이한 음명한 돈나이 신소 시은무 조부 신jet수 신징택 인연이 거fun무 은무싱의 묘무한 약신경교다이교기 소크오 조세츠고 이사이젠마크범브닝 모싱요바이 그생강 무츠공노래 쇼게샤 레닌묘흐나리 케미나부스 홍강냄붓 자경요만나크슈조 징교주지진니나 나주시나무카시
Please rise, and we'll turn to page 2 for the recitation of the homages in the red Jodo Shinshu service book. Hard it is to be born into human life, now we are living in it. Difficult it is to hear the teachings of the Blessed One, now we hear them. If we do not gain emancipation in this present life, we may not be free from ill-faring in the ocean of births and deaths for kalpas. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures.
We go to the Buddha for guidance. May we always walk in the way that leads to enlightenment. We go to the Dharma for guidance. May we be submerged in the depth of the teachings and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. We go to the Sangha for guidance. May we all with one accord live a life of harmony in the spirit of oneness, free from the bondage of selfishness.
Even through myriads of kalpas, hard it is to hear such excellence and profound teachings. Now we are able to hear and receive them. Let us try to understand the Tathagata's teachings.
Namo Amitabha. Namo Amitabha. Namo Amitabha.
Please remain standing, and we're going to turn to the Gatha on this morn on page 119 of the Praises of the Buddha book. Please be seated, everyone. This morning, our guest speaker for this Nirvana Day is Mr. Alan Goto, and Reverend Sumikawa will do our introductions.
Morning, everyone. So this morning we're very fortunate to have as our guest speaker someone that's very familiar to you, and he actually used to live on this side of the island until they moved to the town side. Well, Alan Goto, Reverend Alan Goto, actually was originally a Kono boy. He grew up in a Shin Buddhist family, and his family moved to Aiea after high school, and he graduated from Bradley University in Illinois in business, with a BS in business. And upon completion of an enlistment in the Air Force during the Vietnam War, he returned home and worked for HMSA for 35 years. He and his wife, Chizue, Rosemary, how come you call her Chizue? I don't know any Chizue. Rosemary Tamikuni. They have 2 sons, Sage and Ken, and 3 grandchildren as well. So, as I mentioned before, Alan and Rosemary's family lived in Kaneohe for a while and were members of the Kailua Honganji mission. At that time, Rosemary's brother-in-law, Reverend Makino, was a resident minister here at Kailua, and they enjoyed the fellowship of a small sangha. And he was mentioned by Keiji, Richard Wasai, and Wally Fujikawa. And he was actually mentored by those 3 people into the Jodo Shinshu faith and how to operate a temple. Alan always considered Kailua Honganji as his religious birthplace. And in the mid-1980s, the Goto family relocated to Paoa Valley in Honolulu and became Hawaii Besuing members. Alan has served on his board and as president, I participated in Honzan's Tokudo orientation. This is the program for foreigners. It's like a Boy Scout camp. Since then, he has focused on planning and executing Buddhist educational events at the Betsuing, the Honolulu Honganji Council, and the Buddhist Study Center. Right now, he is particularly interested in expressing joy in the Nembutsu path. Reverend Goto.
Thank you. This is great. And as Bert said, this is probably where most of my experience with running a temple, as well as entering the Nembutsu path, all took place here at Kailua Honganji, or Windward now, as you call yourself. And so I'm excited to join you. I had not been coached that this was Nirvana Day, and so I just wrote my theme according to what I thought I was willing to share. Right? As Reverend Bert has indicated, we were very active as a young family, coming to this temple, and as he indicated, Reverend Makino was here, and he's our brother-in-law. I mean, Mrs. Makino is Rosemary's sister, and so we came to Uncle Shige's temple within that context, and we participated in almost all the religious events, bon dance, mochi pounding, softball, casino nights, and everything else that came with in those days. And Reverend Makino would facilitate coffee hours where we basically, this was a Dharma dialogue session where we had the opportunity to ask questions on Shin Buddhism and Buddhism in general. There was an earnest group with the Kukinos and the Wasais, and I think there was an Eddie Nakanishi, and there were quite a few other temple members at that time that would participate. Sometimes it got real esoteric, otherwise we were always looking for a kind of a practical path on the Nembutsu. And so I had the opportunity of sitting on the board, in helping to operate learning the fundamentals of operating a temple. And certainly the board members were very straightforward and dedicated people who were working to survive and succeed here at Kailua. The old temple was cozy and homey, but this new facilities is certainly a dream, and certainly a part of Dorothy Ono's legacy to all of us. And so I'm sure that during this pandemic, things have been challenging. Some may be easy and others may be difficult, depending on one's life situations or circumstances during this pandemic, perhaps as a young child, an adolescent, a college student, a young person looking for a job, a young married couple, a married couple with children, or a couple ready for retirement or just retired. They may also be grandparents. There's certainly more descriptions of circumstances, and otherwise, every one of us have hopefully made it necessary to make adjustments to go to school, go to work, maintain our families, keep everyone safe and healthy. And I'm sure that for many of us, we've experienced that sense that our lives are settled in the Nembutsu. Much of my Jodo Shinshu understanding has come through reading, listening to Dharma talks and lectures, and engaging in Dharma dialogues with Sangha members. Nevertheless, I must sincerely say that my experience of life in the Nembutsu has been essentially by observing my father-in-law and mother-in-law, Reverend Tamikuni and Matsue Tamikuni, in terms of the way that they lived their lives. And for some of you, you knew the Tamikunis because they lived next door to the minister's parsonage for a while. And within the last year, I think the Honolulu and Oahu councils have engaged the Bishop Marvin Harada of the BCA, and we've engaged him to do a thing on practical Buddhism, as opposed to what he considers truth Buddhism, which maybe that's the part that's indescribable and perhaps very difficult to understand. And so, in essence, Tamikuni Sensei, Otosan would say, life goes as it goes. And really, in the Nembutsu, all is well. These guiding words are similarly expressed in a poem that he wrote. He did these, I guess, I'm not sure if they're haiku or particularly what the style was. He wrote them in Japanese. And then Rosemary's sister, Yoshie Kaios, would do calligraphy things, big posters of his poems. They would be written in Japanese, and then she would help translate them. And so the one that's right in front of my computer, I thought this was a good expression that goes along with life goes as it goes. And so this poem by Otosan says, true sorrow is shown to me. True happiness is shown to me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. The true path is shown to me, a big, bright, and comfortable way. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. For me, the key word in this is comfortable. The Nembutsu path can be an extremely comfortable, joyous way of living life. And for about 6 years, I was fortunate to be able to chauffeur Reverend Tamikuni from his apartment to the Betsuing for the 1 o'clock Japanese service. He was in his 80s. He was not necessarily very healthy, but he never complained, greeted everyone with a warm smile. And for those of you that may remember him, he wore a beret, a knitted beret with a feather on it. And his point was that if it made people smile or it made people laugh, then that made his day. And so we would, on our way to the Betsuing, we'd go by Stevenson Middle School, and there, around that area, there are these beautiful shower trees, these big yellow shower trees. And sometimes we would see a rainbow coming out of Poa Valley. And he would always remark how beautiful they were. And so at this time in my life, as 78 years old, I'm married, a father, retired, grandfather, and experiencing aging. And when you go through aging, those teachings about impermanence and interdependence become so real, and certainly real and true. And so our response to the embrace of universal wisdom and compassion is gratitude, based on the perspectives of living every day as a spiritual practice. I was telling Bert, my life situation is, I've got some medical problems. The doctors will, ask me to do some lab tests or some scans, as a result of, as I'm waiting for the results, it's always very anxious. What is he going to find? What's new in my medical conditions? Fortunately, and I guess I'm hopeful. My primary care physician indicates that, based on his medical experience and opinion, I'll probably die with my medical situations as opposed to dying from them. But nevertheless, each test and scan, I get reasonably anxious about the results. And always, what if the physician recommends surgery or a specific treatment like chemo or something like that? And so I, prepare myself to ask the questions about, as a result of it, what would be the quality of my life? Will it extend it? Will I suffer? Will my family suffer? All of those are certainly my concerns at 78 years old. And it's obvious that I would make different decisions or have a different perspective if I was still 50 years old and, running marathons and coaching and doing all that stuff with my sons, right? So aging is an experience. And as Reverend Bert had indicated, I have these responsibilities at the Betsuing and within Hawaii Kyodan. I chair a committee within Hawaii Kyodan, as well as the Fujitani lecture series that's sponsored by Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai, BDK, and Chaminade University. And so, as a result of it, during this pandemic, I must have at least one, sometimes 2 or 3 Zoom meetings a week for these activities. And I'm beginning to get to the point, as I just told Reverend Sumikawa, that it's time to cut bait. It's time to not be attached to all this stuff. It's been years of working within the either the temple or the mission as a whole. And so, in conclusion, let me repeat the essentials of Jodo Shinshu to the thoughts of Reverend Tamikuni. True sorrow is shown to me, true happiness is shown to me. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. The true path is shown to me, a big, bright, and comfortable way. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And life goes as it goes, and all is well, in the embrace of universal wisdom and compassion. Namo Amida Butsu. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm grateful to Reverend Burt to do this. As an aside, while he was a dentist, our sons were his patients. So we've known him for a long time. And I was very curious when he showed up, I think, at the first time at the Buddhist Study Center, making it known that he was interested in Jodo Shinshu. I guess I was thinking, well, I thought he was a Christian. He went to Iolani and went to Marquette for dental school and all this kind of stuff. Maybe he was Catholic. And so it was very interesting that we reconnected in this manner. So, and I've always thought, as far as about you as a Sangha, that your newsletter, the Kalyana Mitra, I guess it translated as fellow travelers on the Nembutsu path, is so appropriate and so welcoming for people who may be interested in Buddhism and Jodo Shinshu. So again, I'm grateful for this opportunity. Please be safe and healthy as we live in this new normal. Please join me in reciting the name that calls. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Goto. I want to make a little joke that we're all turning into what are called zombies because watch, so zombies, the joke is we're all zombies now because we're on Zoom so much. Anyway, okay, please rise. I'm going to do the Gatha from the Brown Book again with these hands. It's found on page 174. And please continue to stand for the Nembutsu that follows, and that's page 107.
impartial and accepting like the earth, with compassion broad and all-encompassing like the universe. Awakened ones help others. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Please be seated. Thank you for joining us for today's service. Hope everybody's doing well. And so we'll have announcements from President Prince.
Good morning. Nice to see everybody again. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Prudence. You know, it's been a long time since we saw Alan. The last time I think you spoke was in the old temple, and that's many years ago. Nice to see you too, Rosemary. Thanks to our volunteers for today, Gerald for being MC, Neil the greeter, Dennis checked for vaccines, and today's refreshment is prepared by Team A, and Lisa is the lead person. So I hope all of you remain, or at least pick up your takeaway refreshments that we've been doing since we opened in January. Those of you that want to remain back and talk story, you're more than welcome to do so. I just want to bring back something that we did last week. Last week was our Donna Day, and remember I said the offertory would be donated to the Honolulu United BWA so they can support some nonprofit groups. And we collected $220, which we sent to them. But for your information, the organizations that will be receiving the Donna funds from the BWA include Adult Friends for Youth. You know, some of these agencies you never hear about, but they are important. Since 1986, this group has offered resources to provide healthy alternatives to gang membership, violence, and school failures. The other agency is the Food Bank, and we also collect food for them. And the third one is Touch a Heart. This group helps individuals facing barriers to employment to transform their lives by providing vocational training in a healing and nurturing environment, creating pathways to job placement. Another one is the University of Hawaii Foundation project called HOME. It stands for Homeless Outreach and Medical Education. It's a mobile medical outreach project whose mission is to improve quality and access to health care for Hawaii's homeless while increasing student and physician awareness and understanding of the homeless and their healthcare needs. And of course, as I mentioned last week, every year Project Donna is one of the recipients. So these are the groups that the BWA selects every year. So every year they add a new one. So these groups, I think, receive at least $1,000 for 3 years, and then they drop off and a new group is picked up. So there's a lot of agencies that are being supported by our Donna funds. Okay. Now, next week is our Remembrance Day. So again, if you have a family member, friends, or someone, or even your pets that has passed away in February, doesn't matter what year, you can, when you come to the service, there'll be a sign up and you sign them up, and then we would recognize them during the service. If you have pictures of them, please feel free to bring them and place them on the altar. Let's see. You know, many of you have not seen the beautiful funeral altar cloth that we have. And I thought, since we used it yesterday for a service, when Reverend has a service here, we come and we changed our everyday cloth to this beautiful funeral cloth. And I told Reverend, maybe I'll just leave it on from yesterday so you can see it. But that wasn't appropriate. But I do want to show it to you.
You know why she said it's something to look forward to?
You said that. Yeah, that's what he tells me. I said, but then I'll be dead by then. I want to see it now, And also, for some of you, we do have a Windward Buddhist Temple Funeral Memorial Services handbook. So if you want one of your own, please, I'll have some out there on the table. And at least every 2 years, Reverend would review the fee schedule. So there's a separate insert that has the fee schedule. And it's from 2021, but there's no changes for this year. So I want to take this opportunity to share this beautiful cloth with you. So Cynthia's going to help. This will go on the main altar, and we have a matching piece that goes in the top. But isn't that beautiful? But unless you come to a funeral here, you won't get to see it. So I wanted to show you. So, like Reverend said, now you want to look forward to it. So almost everything would be draped in white. It's so nice to make it movie.
Yeah, so take a good look now, but you won't see it.
Yeah, and I told Reverend, because unlike other temples, we don't have an elevated place, so many times you cannot see the whole thing because we put our incense offertory things up front. So all you can see is the top one, but it's really good. Okay, are there any other announcements? Otherwise, thank you for attending a service, and we'll see you again next week. Please make your way to the social hall area and help yourself to the takeaway goodie bags that the Team A has taken their time to prepare for you. So thank you, Alan. Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Joy, for doing the piano.